So hello, this is me doing another video diary, this time from the Peace Camp in Tredegar Park. Nice sky there, as you can see. In fact, that is a beautiful sky. It's not very often you see a sky like that. But this is a camp that's been set up by the Anarchist Action Network, which funnily enough I only really found out today. It's largely irrelevant who set it up, because the reason for this camp is to promote peace whilst the NATO summit is going on. For the benefit of my readers, you may or may not be confused by the presence of that red flag. For some people that flag means something to them. I'm not going to knock them for having their own personal ideology. But from a personal viewpoint, and likely as not if you're watching this video, you may be a bit confused by that flag, especially when you hear so many people at such places talking about workers' rights and, you know, a bit more fairness in this monetary society. I don't know, it seems a bit odd to me that people who would talk about workers' rights would raise a red communist flag, given that no communist regime in history has ever turned control of anything over to the workers. It's always been owned by the state, it's always been controlled by the state. So, you know, I don't know, anarchists, you know, communists raising that flag and saying it's about people's rights. For me personally, it's the greatest contradiction ever to exist. Also bearing in mind, you know, the number of people that have died at the hands of communist regimes. I personally find that flag offensive in the same way that I'd find a Nazi flag offensive. But, you know, just to let you know really, if you're watching this video and you feel like coming to a peace camp or an environmental camp or something along those lines, these flags kind of represent individuals. They're not necessarily representative of the entire camp. So don't let them frighten you off. You know, the cause of peace itself is one which knows no ideology, although ideology does sometimes find its way into such places. But you'll notice the Palestinian flags as well, which is good to see, given that the reason for this camp is to protest the NATO summit and the NATO powers' support of the Israeli Zionist regime in their occupation in Gaza, a Western-backed occupation in Gaza, it's worth noting. You notice there's a few tents sort of popping up around here. Personally, I'm expecting a few more over the coming days. There's a kitchen tent set up over there. There's a tent set up there which is going to be some sort of space. And somewhat strangely, this has all been set up in the middle of, I say a park, the park's much bigger than what you see here. You're right next to a children's play area. So in a way, it's kind of nice because when families come here with their kids, they can see what's going on. It's just a shame that red flag ruins things. So personally, I'm not going to object to what people put outside their own tents. That's their choice. But to raise that red flag in such a position of prominence, it makes a statement for all of us, one that I personally can't agree with. But such is the world we live in. A peace flag at last. I would like to see more peace flags. I've got a peace flag with me, which I'm going to raise at some point. Given this is a peace camp, we probably should have more peace flags. But yeah, it's been a pretty good day doing the poetry. There was a march down in Newport today, footage of which I took earlier. Usual shit really. As you can see, occupied by Friends of Palestine. That banner actually has a little bit of history to it. It was used when a few people occupied the BBC to show their outrage about something to do with Gaza. I haven't got the full story, but maybe I'll give you a bit more detail on that full story later when I pick it up. But you know, as you can see, Gaza is a pretty major issue at the moment, given the Israelis are bombing them to fuck, and I don't know, seem to be intent on, well, a genocide. I think that's the only way to call it, really. When you go around bombing children, the only way you can describe that is a genocide. You know, you're wiping out the next generation. There is no other way to describe that other than a genocide. Regardless of what you think of the very real problems that exist at the moment with Islamic extremism, for example, ISIS in Iraq and Syria, I would ask the readers, or the watchers, should I say, of these video diaries to remember that the Palestinian issue is something altogether very different. Although Hamas may or may not have extremist associations, although there may or may not be some questionable individuals involved in Hamas, the cause in Gaza itself is one which you don't have to be a Muslim to feel sympathy for. You know, it's enough to be a human. I ask you this: if somebody occupied your homeland, herded you and your people into an area of land that's a fraction of what your homeland originally was, put a giant fence around it, then started stealing more land, building houses on it, prevented food and supplies getting in, would you not be reaching for a rocket launcher yourself? Would you not be picking up an AK-47 yourself? Because, to be completely honest, if somebody occupied my country, as much as I stand for that cause of peace, I'd probably be reaching for the AK-47 myself. But there you go. Such is the world we live in. I'm going to be here for the next week until the end of the summer. We'll see how it goes. I'll bring you a few more video updates as things progress. But yes, for now, this is Danny Lake signing out from Tredegar Park, Newport.